It's like putting diesel in the petrol tank.
There was a study looking at the Swedish population of those who had transitioned that found that those who had transitioned had suicide rates 19 times higher than population-matched controls.
Puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones. The fact they're being offered outside of clinical trials, despite the fact there's so much unknown about long-term risk, is a scandal in and of itself.
It's up to us on the left to walk this back. I want liberals to make room for gender diversity, and that includes masculine girls and feminine boys, without telling them that they need to leave their sex category because they are different.
Like I said, I have to now live with what I've done.
These doctors and therapists put me through this. They had no reason to, except for the fact that I said it.
Hi, I'm Nat, and today I want to talk about two different events that got canceled by the very woke, progressive, tolerant left this past weekend. So the first one was a documentary called No Way Back, where detransitioners talk about their experiences of being transitioned when they were very young, regretting it, and then realizing what the medical establishment, their parents, and other people had done to them. But, of course, the trans mafia had to come out and try to cancel it, because it was actually going to be shown in the AMC Theatres, which is a very big American movie theater chain. But they were successful enough in their complaints, so what actually happened? So AMC Theatres cancels the transitioner film following trans groups' deplatforming campaign, according to the Daily Wire. AMC Theatres abruptly canceled the film showcasing the voices of young people who have detransitioned after having hormone therapy and surgeries to purportedly affirm their gender identity. No Way Back, the reality of gender-affirming care, was set for initial release on June 21st in dozens of theaters across the country. Producers of the film say AMC caved to the pressure of a deplatforming campaign by transgender group called Queer Trans Project, which has not had access to view the full film, and they almost never do. Every time we see these protests and hissy fits over maybe opinions that the left doesn't agree with, well, they have never actually seen or heard the speakers that they're trying to deplatform and cancel. But, of course, AMC Theatres caved, and it's funny because they were saying that this documentary was made by white supremacists and transphobes and homophobes and all the words they always throw out, but it actually, and we see here from the Post-Millennial, it was actually made by liberal filmmakers exploring concerns around medical sex changes for children. And in the film, here it says, was made by liberals who are as suspicious and critical of the far right as they are of the left. But even their leftist bona fides weren't enough to keep the film from cancellation. So the left seems to be kind of eating itself because they cannot tolerate any opinion that deviates even slightly from the narrative that they like to give out to the main public. And the showing of this film would have allowed for the stories of these detransitioners who the trans mafia keeps trying to silence. It would have allowed those voices to be heard by more and more people. And now that we're seeing a big backlash and more people waking up as to what the gender-affirming care medicalization of children actually means, well, they're even more scared now. But I just want to show really quickly what this little group was using to accomplish their goals. So the QT Project, or Queer Trans Project, was showcasing this breaking anti-trans film showing at an AMC near you. AMC theaters across the country will be showing No Way Back, a right-wing anti-trans film to fuel vicious hate towards our trans community. And as we see, and we can go through all of this, and they give a sample email where of course, probably a very tiny percentage of people just copied and pasted the same email over and over again to get AMC to cave. But we see that nowhere, and you can go through their whole Instagram and their whole social medias, nowhere do they actually state their position or why they are in favor of transitioning kids. Because once you start saying that sex changes for children is actually a good thing, well, you met with a little bit of a sticky situation because people realize that your position is actually insane. And we can see that here in this perfect example from Senator Dan Crenshaw, where he's questioning a gender-affirming advocate and supposed doctor or some kind of medical person. And she cannot mention even one study to corroborate what she says. She just says the standards of care, which they themselves write. So let's go watch him completely demolish one of these advocates.
You've said that we've cherry-picked data. How do you mean how do you mean that?
So it is very unscientific and flawed to pick a single study or a single statistic and to discuss it in isolation.
Totally agree.
Medical experts are able to talk about all of the evidence as a whole.
Totally agree. So it's good to look at systematic reviews, right? That's the gold standard of evidence when you're trying to understand whether something works or whether it doesn't. So the British Journal of Medicine looked at 61 systematic reviews with the conclusion that, quote, there is great uncertainty about the effects of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries in young people. The Journal of Endocrine Society came up with the same conclusion, even the American Academy of Pediatrics. They all cite the lack of evidence. And so here's the thing. If you're doing a therapy, and it's, temporary, whatever, fine, maybe let's try it, let's see if it works. But when you're talking about permanent physiological changes, do you not agree, just from an ethical standpoint, that you might want extremely strong evidence of the benefits? And there is no systematic review that states that there is strong evidence of benefits.
Sir, are you aware of how the quality evidence grading system works and how it's applied?
Yeah, we read through it. That's why I'm citing these journals. So which journal says something different? We should have that debate. Tell me a journal that has done systematic reviews that cites different evidence, that cites strong evidence for benefits of these therapies.
The standards of care were developed based on extensive...
You're not telling me any journal, you're not telling me any study. Don't say standards of care.
Yeah. So...
Tell me one.
The standards of care.
That's the standards of care. That's not a journal, that's not a study. That's not an organization, that's not an institution. You're just saying words. Name one study. Yeah. I'm out of time. I yield back.
So the documentary No Way Back is available on their website, and even though it's not available for streaming yet because they were supposed to be in theaters right now, the producers have said they'll make it available as soon as possible, and the links are in the description down below, and the trailer is up here, so you can watch the rest of the trailer for that film. But in another situation of canceling the very same people the left always claims to protect, well, a group called Blexit that is headed by Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk and Brandon Tatum, two of whom are Black people themselves, was canceled out of one of the venues they were going to do an event this past weekend. And what Blexit is trying to accomplish, which was started by Candace Owens, is to tell Black people that they don't have to keep believing the one narrative that they have to be a Democrat, they have to be liberal, and they have to go along with what they're told by the establishment and by the media. She just wants to give people the ability to have and see different points of view by Black people, Black conservatives, Black libertarians, and create a community around diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, and have debates with those that usually are on the left. However, Blexit got their venue canceled because mostly white liberals started complaining that they are a hate white supremacist group, which is funny because it is a group for and by Black people. So let's see what the Post-Millennial says. So breaking, woke venue cancels Blexit TPUSA Turning Point USA event in New York City. Blexit vows event will go on, and it did go on. I'll get into that in a bit. But the Musical Hall of Williamsburg abruptly canceled an event featuring prominent Black and brown conservatives with just 3 days' notice. In a virtue signaling move, the Musical Hall of Williamsburg faced instant backlash after abruptly canceling an event featuring prominent Black and brown conservatives with just 3 days' notice. The event, organized by Blexit and Turning Point USA, was set to showcase influential figures such as Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, Anthony Davis, Yeonmi Park, 3 Black Americans, and a North Korean defector. The cancellation immediately sparked outrage within conservative circles, with Charlie Kirk expressing his frustration on Twitter. In a strongly worded statement, Kirk said, "Outrageous, a bunch of white liberal New Yorkers just canceled the Blexit TPUSA event for an venue for an event featuring Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens, Anthony Davis, and Yeonmi Park, 3 Black Americans, and 1 North Korean defector with less than 3 days' notice." And we see here from Timcast News that, yes, indeed, the Music Hall of Williamsburg and their little excuse was that the event organizers presented themselves as a non-profit organization dedicated to the advancement of urban and minority communities when they requested to rent the venue. So they're saying that Blexit presented themselves as this to the venue that canceled them. So it has become abundantly clear to us that in actuality, this organization provides a platform for hate speech and homophobia, which the Bowery will not tolerate, and we have canceled their rental contract. This event will not take place in our venue. And a lot of people are coming out and saying and thinking that, well, wasn't there a contract? Isn't this a breach of contract? And how can they cancel with just 3 days' notice? Here we see how the outraged leftist woke mob managed to get them to cancel them. So here, Outlive Them NYC says, "How do Music Hall of Williamsburg and Bowery Presents have the audacity to use pride logos this month when they're hosting a Turning Point USA Blexit event with far-right anti-trans bigots Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens this Saturday, June 17th in Brooklyn, New York City?" And here we see them being outraged that a Black person might speak out of turn. This being Candace Owens, she gets a lot of hate, which is undeserved, in my opinion. She does have strong opinions, but isn't that what the left wants? A Black woman with strong opinions that stands up for herself and is able to build a multi-million-dollar empire? No, apparently not. They cancel them and call them white supremacists if they deviate even slightly from the narrative that the left prescribes. And again, these were all mostly white people trying to cancel 2 Black people, Candace Owens and then Brandon Tatum, who is an ex-police officer who works with young Black children to give them a father figures if they don't have one, and to connect fathers with sons. However, we now know that the person that was in charge of the venue and of vetoing this event actually knew exactly who Blexit were, who Candace Owens was, who Brandon Tatum was, and their opinions. And it became abundantly clear after speaking with the Blexit director and a bunch of other people that were concerned with getting this event approved, that it was the theater and the venue caving to the demands of the white left liberals rather than them finally realizing that the person they were hosting were apparently white supremacists who are Black and a defector from North Korea. But with a lot of the boycotts and now people speaking out about what they're seeing that the woke progressive left ideology is leading to, well, now when the woke progressive leftists want to silence others and difference of opinions, people will start to question why, and why can't these people speak and be more interested in what they're trying to say, rather than the goal that the left had and that was working for a little bit, where they'd just be silenced and nobody would listen to them. But again, this just makes everybody more curious about what these supposedly very dangerous voices are saying. And they are important things that they're saying. So if you can, go check them out. I'll leave links for Blexit and for the documentary down here. But for now, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.